I've delayed important tasks, even when finishing them, would reduce my stress, increase satisfaction, and help me achieve personal or professional goals more efficiently and confidently. I know procrastination isn't laziness. It's a common psychological pattern shaped by my emotional regulation, self-control, stress response, and my brain's preference for immediate comfort over delayed rewards. I delay tasks because my brain seeks short-term relief or pleasure, choosing easier or more enjoyable activities instead of starting challenging or emotionally uncomfortable work. When I face a difficult task, my prefrontal cortex, which plans and disciplines, competes with my limbic system that prioritizes immediate emotional comfort over long-term goals. This internal conflict leaves me intending to work consciously while subconsciously seeking distractions or temporary relief. Emotions like fear, stress, or self-doubt trigger my procrastination, making even simple tasks feel overwhelming and prompting me to avoid them to protect my mood. Perfectionism increases my procrastination because fear of producing imperfect work makes starting or finishing tasks feel intimidating. I misjudge time and task difficulty, so my brain postpones work when the perceived effort feels too high for my current energy, motivation, or confidence. Decision fatigue makes procrastination worse because too many choices drain my mental energy and make it harder to start and sustain focus. Instant gratification from technology, entertainment, or social media hijacks my attention, giving immediate rewards while I delay important responsibilities. Research shows procrastination links to lower self-efficacy, where I might doubt my ability and hesitate even on tasks well within my skill set. Anxiety about deadlines can paradoxically increase my procrastination, as rising stress sometimes leads me to avoid instead of act. My brain's reward system favors instant satisfaction, making tasks that require delayed effort feel less appealing and easy to postpone. Understanding why I procrastinate explains why advice like "just start" often fails, since emotions, habits, and cognitive patterns can override simple motivation. Behavioral economics shows time inconsistency, meaning I prioritize immediate rewards over larger future benefits, which explains why I delay important tasks despite clear consequences. Task aversion makes me avoid activities I find stressful, boring, or unpleasant, so I opt for easier or more emotionally comfortable alternatives. I often overestimate my future motivation, assuming I'll feel inspired later, which fuels chronic procrastination when that motivation never arrives. Repeated avoidance builds habits that strengthen neural pathways, making procrastination my default unless I use deliberate strategies to change. Social and environmental factors like distractions, unclear expectations, or lack of accountability make it easier for me to postpone important work. Cognitive distortions, such as all-or-nothing thinking or overgeneralization, amplify my procrastination by convincing me imperfect effort is unacceptable or failure is inevitable. I often use avoidance unconsciously to manage negative feelings instead of tolerating or addressing them constructively. Practicing self-compassion reduces my procrastination because harsh self-criticism increases stress and avoidance, while understanding that delay is common encourages consistent effort. Breaking large tasks into small, manageable steps lowers my emotional resistance and builds momentum that promotes progress and confidence. Time blocking and structured schedules give me external accountability, minimize distractions, and help me complete tasks within manageable periods. Using prioritization tools like the Eisenhower matrix helps me identify important versus urgent tasks so I can focus on meaningful work. Mindfulness practices enhance my awareness of procrastination and help me notice urges without automatically acting on them. One major reason I procrastinate is fear of failure, because anticipating mistakes or judgment creates anxiety, and my brain avoids the task to protect my self-esteem. My perfectionism often amplifies procrastination. By setting unrealistically high standards, that lead me to postpone work rather than risk producing something imperfect. The limbic system, which drives my emotions, can overpower my prefrontal cortex that handles planning and self-discipline, causing me to avoid stressful tasks. I sometimes use procrastination unconsciously to regulate emotions, delaying uncomfortable feelings to gain temporary relief from stress. Dopamine reinforces procrastination by making short-term pleasurable activities like scrolling social media more appealing than tackling long-term goals. I often misjudge how long tasks will take, which leads me to form unrealistic expectations and delay starting. Instant gratification from entertainment or snacks hijacks my attention, creating a loop where short-term pleasure overrides long-term benefits. Cognitive biases make me overestimate my future motivation and underestimate consequences, convincing me that delaying tasks is acceptable. I feel task aversion when an activity seems boring, frustrating, or stressful, so I avoid it in favor of more enjoyable alternatives. Self-doubt fuels my procrastination because questioning my abilities creates fear and hesitation that keep me from starting. Unfinished tasks linger in my mind, increasing stress and pressure while paradoxically making me avoid completing them. Decision fatigue worsens my procrastination because constant choices drain my mental energy and make it harder to initiate focused work. When I procrastinate chronically, I experience more stress, reduced productivity, and lower satisfaction as tasks pile up. Social factors like distractions, lack of accountability, and unclear expectations make it easier for me to delay work, especially in unstructured environments. My habits shape my procrastination, since repeated avoidance strengthens neural pathways and makes delay my default response. Anxiety about deadlines can actually increase my procrastination, because overwhelming pressure triggers avoidance rather than motivation. When I label myself as lazy or unmotivated, that identity reinforces negative self-perception and perpetuates avoidance. Understanding that procrastination is a learned response rather than a personal flaw helps me approach change with self-compassion. I find that breaking tasks into smaller, actionable steps reduces procrastination by making work feel achievable and easing emotional resistance. Creating micro goals gives me a sense of progress and small rewards that satisfy my brain's need for immediate feedback. Time blocking and structured schedules help me reduce procrastination by providing external accountability and minimizing distractions. I improve focus when I design my environment to minimize distractions, organize my workspace, and remove triggers for avoidance. Reward systems, where I earn small positives for completing steps, boost dopamine and counteract my preference for immediate gratification. Practicing self-compassion reduces my procrastination by letting me view setbacks as learning opportunities instead of reasons for shame. Visualization techniques increase my motivation because imagining the satisfaction of finishing a task triggers emotional rewards. Having accountability partners, mentors, or making public commitments increases my follow-through by activating social motivation and reducing the likelihood of giving in to distractions. My prefrontal cortex, which handles planning, decision-making, and self-control, competes with my limbic system that seeks immediate pleasure and avoids discomfort, creating a biological basis for my procrastination. When I face a challenging task, my limbic system triggers stress or anxiety and pushes me to seek relief through distraction, delaying action despite my conscious intention to start. As a chronic procrastinator, I often have heightened limbic responses that make emotional regulation harder and increase my tendency to avoid unpleasant or overwhelming tasks. My brain's dopamine reward pathways reinforce procrastination by favoring immediately satisfying activities like browsing the internet or social media over tasks that require delayed gratification. Research shows my procrastination links to reduced activity in my anterior cingulate cortex, which normally monitors conflict between intentions and actions, making impulse control harder. My procrastination habits strengthen neural pathways over time, creating automatic responses to delay work that I must deliberately intervene to change. I also engage in emotional avoidance when my brain associates tasks with stress, fear, or negative feelings, prompting me to postpone as a temporary mood regulation. When tasks feel boring, complex, or threatening to my self-esteem, I tend to avoid them because my brain prioritizes comfort over long-term goals. My perfectionism often fuels procrastination, as my fear of mistakes or imperfect work delays starting and reinforces avoidance and self-criticism. Decision fatigue amplifies my procrastination because constant choices deplete my cognitive resources and reduce my ability to start or sustain focus on tough tasks. Time inconsistency explains why I prefer immediate rewards over larger delayed benefits, contributing to procrastination even when I know the long-term consequences. Starting a task is often the hardest step because overcoming emotional resistance requires deliberate effort, planning, and activating my prefrontal cortex to suppress avoidance impulses. When I make micro-commitments and break big tasks into smaller steps, I reduce perceived difficulty, boost motivation, and build momentum against procrastination. Environmental cues matter. Cluttered spaces, notifications, and easy distractions increase my temptation, while organized, minimal environments reduce triggers to avoid work. Social accountability helps me start tasks because sharing goals or deadlines with others activates motivation and uses external reinforcement to reduce procrastination. Time blocking helps me overcome delays by structuring my day into focused periods that create external cues to act, bypassing fluctuating motivation. By forming habits and repeatedly engaging in productive behaviors, I can rewire my brain to favor consistent action over avoidance. I use positive reinforcement, rewarding myself for completing tasks or milestones, to engage my reward system and make productivity more appealing. Mindfulness and emotional awareness help me recognize avoidance triggers and negative self-talk so I can intervene and prevent habitual procrastination. I use cognitive restructuring to replace unhelpful beliefs, like thinking I'll never finish, with constructive thoughts such as I can start small and improve gradually, which helps me act despite discomfort. When I visualize success or the satisfaction of completed work, my motivation increases and emotional resistance weakens as my brain links effort to reward. When I practice self-compassion, I procrastinate less because I approach tasks without fear of judgment and allow myself to make mistakes while staying consistent. Setting micro-goals gives me manageable targets, reduces aversion, and makes progress tangible, helping me break inertia on overwhelming tasks. I use behavioral activation by starting tasks even when motivation is low, leveraging momentum to overcome resistance and reinforce productive habits. Procrastination becomes cyclical for me because delayed work raises stress, anxiety, and guilt, which in turn amplifies avoidance unless I consciously interrupt the loop. Developing strategies such as prioritized lists, structured routines, and clear deadlines helps me stay on track and prevent relapse into procrastination. Your brain isn't broken. You're just fighting procrastination wrong. Here's a trick almost nobody talks about. Break your task into micro steps, like ridiculously small ones. Instead of write the report, try open the document. That tiny action? It actually rewires your brain to start. Next, use what I call temptation bundling. Pair boring work with something you actually enjoy, like listening to your favorite playlist only during work sessions. Your brain starts craving the work because it means the reward. And finally, schedule one 5-minute session. Just 5 minutes. You'll almost always keep going once you start. Try this today and watch how fast procrastination loses its grip. I overcome procrastination permanently by combining self-awareness, structured habits, and psychological strategies, so I replace delay with intentional, consistent action in my personal and professional life. I identify recurring triggers like fear, boredom, or perfectionism, and use targeted strategies to lower the chance I delay tasks again. I build daily routines with prioritized tasks, micro goals, and scheduled work periods to create consistency and retrain my brain to start automatically. I stack habits by linking new productive behaviors to routines I already have, reducing friction and reliance on motivation alone. I use mindfulness to notice avoidance patterns, negative self-talk, and emotional triggers so I can intervene before procrastination takes over. I reflect and journal to gain insight into my behavior, track successes and challenges, and adjust strategies for better results. I use positive reinforcement and small rewards to make effort feel more satisfying than avoidance. I rely on accountability partners and peer support to provide motivation, feedback, and measurable expectations. I break big projects into manageable steps so tasks feel achievable, and I maintain momentum with small milestones. I time block my work into focused sessions with breaks to match attention cycles and prevent emotional resistance. I manage my energy through sleep, nutrition, and exercise, so I avoid fatigue-driven avoidance and sustain focus on complex tasks. I visualize the benefits and satisfaction of completing tasks to build motivation and counter avoidance signals. I practice cognitive restructuring to replace thoughts like, I will never finish with ideas, such as I can start small and improve steadily. I set micro deadlines and incremental goals to create urgency and turn distant tasks into manageable steps. I set digital boundaries by limiting notifications and social media so distractions do not hijack my attention. I use social comparison mindfully, letting peers inspire me instead of causing discouragement or self-doubt. I run behavioral experiments in low-pressure settings to test approaches, refine techniques, and gradually beat habitual procrastination. I practice self-compassion, treating procrastination as common, so I reduce guilt and approach change proactively. I track my progress with charts, apps, or journals to see tangible evidence of action and build lasting motivation. I overcome perfectionism by focusing on progress, learning, and effort instead of flawless results. I combine emotional, cognitive, and environmental strategies to tackle root causes while reinforcing habits, routines, and rewards for sustainable productivity. I pursue incremental improvement through small, consistent actions that build momentum and make big projects feel achievable. I shift my mindset toward growth, learning, and resilience to reduce fear and increase confidence in facing challenges. I use accountability, structured routines, and supportive environments to strengthen my ability to act despite discomfort, decreasing avoidance and procrastination.